Hi, I'm Grant Threlkeld, and this is my Module 12 about torts. First of all, what is a tort? A tort is an actionable or civil wrong committed against one person by another that is independent of contract. The text defines two types of torts. An intentional tort is an intentional act to commit against another person, and in this, the person has to prove that someone else was intentionally trying to harm them. And there's the unintentional torts, which is a wrong perpetrated by someone who fails to exercise that degree of care in doing what is otherwise permissible. The text mentions that when it comes to torts against schools, that unintentional torts, specifically negligence, are the most commonly filed. I'm going to be discussing 5 cases today. The first one is Cormier v. Lynn. Next is Pomren v. Crete Monet High School. The next one is Home v. Manhattan Beach City School. The next one is Jane Doe 3 and others versus McLean County Unit District Number 5 and others. And the last one is Mitchell v. Cedar Rapids Community School. And the first one took place in Massachusetts. And it was Matthew Mumbar, who was a fourth grade student, was being bullied by another student at school. One day, while they were lining up near a set of stairs, the bully ended up pushing Matthew down the stairs. As a result of his injuries, Matthew is now permanently paralyzed. The Massachusetts court ruled that the school was not guilty of negligence because the school did not cause the action. They did not directly push him down, nor did they have a policy in place promoting pushing others down. And it also ruled that the school could not directly be sued because it was a bully who committed the action, not a member of the school or the school district. When I look at a reactive measure, it would be enforcing stricter policies when walking down the hall, especially near stairs, looking to separate students who do not get along. Proactively, I'd want to ensure that the policies are in place for students traveling safely down the hall, but also look towards developing and implementing a more complete bullying prevention policy and system to help students feel safe at school. And ethically, we have the responsibility to look out for the best interest of students and to communicate with parents. The question that I have in this particular case is, did the parents talk to the school? Did they look at separating the two students to ensure that all students were kept safe? The next case that I'd like to look at is Pomren v. Crete Monet High School. In this one, it was a school was let out at 5:30, and there was softball practice at 5:45. However, teacher contracts did not allow for teachers to leave until 5:45. However, this policy wasn't real closely followed. The freshmen and sophomores on the team were bused over to the field, but the juniors and seniors could drive themselves. And in this case, Pomren, who was a member of the softball team, uh, was a junior senior and made it over to practice on her own. During this time, another student realized that her car was locked with the keys inside. So a group of softball players decided to drive over to another player's house before school started, or before practice started, pick up a coat hanger and unlock the door. Because after a while, the principal started enforcing a policy that teachers had to stay until their contract time. So Miss David, the softball coach, was not going to be leaving school until 5:45. When these girls decided to take a trip over to another student's house to get a coat hanger, Miss Pomren decided to ride on the back of the trunk. When the person driving made a left-hand turn, Miss Pomren fell off the trunk and became injured. The plaintiff alleged that the injury happened because of a lack of supervision. The court ended up ruling that the school was not liable because um, it took place after school hours and because the principal's action to make a teacher fulfill their contract and not being there to supervise the practice before it started, there was no guarantee that an injury was going to occur. That just the court specifically cited that just because a group of students are together does not mean that injury would occur, that a group of teenagers was together, that injury would occur. Reactively, the response would be the players are not allowed to be at practice without some sort of adult supervision. Proactively, I'd want to look to work to make sure that there is proper adult supervision, clearly defining policies on extracurricular activities, working with the athletic department, and to share with parents how and when students are supervised. Ethically, to me, it's about communication. That we're communicating with parents on how their students are going to be supervised, how they're going to get there, so that that way we can avoid such tragedies like this one. The next case is Holm versus Manhattan Beach School Districts. And in this, Michael Holm is a 10-year-old who is attending summer school. He ended up leaving school before the school day had ended and was walking home. In that process of crossing a public street, Michael was hit by a motorcycle and was severely injured. His mom filed suit for negligence and for her own emotional trauma. In this case, the courts found that the school was not liable because the injury took place off of school grounds. And they dismissed the suit for emotional distress to the mother. Reactively, the school would probably force attendance to be taken at the beginning and end of every class and verify all absences. Proactively, this would be about communicating with parents on attendance policy and ensuring that the administrator is doing enough walkthroughs so that they know what is happening within the school ground. And again, ethically, teachers, as educators, we have a responsibility to verify when students are absent. This next one is Jane Doe 3 and others versus McLean County District number 5 and others. In this case, John White worked for McLean County School District as an elementary teacher. He was twice disciplined and was removed from the classroom for teacher on student sexual harassment and or assault. The court proceedings also mentioned the potential of student grooming. He was removed from the classroom towards the beginning of that year. At the end of the school year, he had applied for another job at the Urbana district, and they went through and checked his references, and there was not a mention of the discipline or the reasoning behind it. The court found McLean County Schools did not warn of his past behavior, and they specifically mentioned the McLean County Schools writing him a positive letter of endorsement. They also mentioned that the school district failed to notify law enforcement. Mr. White ended up being found guilty of other charges in a separate trial, but the court was found guilty, or excuse me, the school was found guilty in its negligence there. What would be a reactive response in the school district would be a hiring freeze and the implementation of a twofold verification process on all references. In this particular case, it mentioned that one person did all of the verifying. In order to be proactive, it would be ensuring that there are proper procedures in verifying information, having an active administrator in the classrooms, because this case mentioned the comments that he would make to students, and specifically a game that he would play that was uh, inappropriate. And then having open communication with all stakeholders. And ethically, there's an obligation to keep students safe at schools. And this includes open communication with parents and to ensure that complaints are handled in a professional manner without judging based on demographics. Lastly was Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. In this one, there was a special education student who has an IQ of about 67, which is below average. He ended up leaving school with a 19-year-old special education student. They went over to another person's garage, and this 14-year-old special education student, DE, ended up being sexually assaulted. DE's mother filed suit against the school for negligence. It was specifically mentioned that the special education teachers usually would contact if a child wasn't in class. And in this case, they didn't do that, and there wasn't a reason why. They were relying on the automated system to let the parent know that a child was not at school. In this case, the school district was found negligent in its supervision of students. The reactive measure was making sure that all students' absences are reported to the office and verified. In this case, the special education students left school, and so it would be evaluating whether students leaving school is a concern for all special education students, or if was a one-time occurrence. To be proactive, it would be establishing guidelines for all students who are not in class and verifying why, but then also working with the special education staff to ensure that the appropriate resources and aids are there for all students and not making blanket statements when it comes to elopement of students. And ethically, the safety of students is paramount, especially in cases of students with intellectual delays, and to work to timely communicate with parents would be the professional expectation. As a special education teacher, this one hits home because I know that for me, when a parent or when a child isn't at school or something's going on in a child's life, I know that I'm on my phone talking to that parent, communicating with them. So I find it disheartening that special education teachers did not do that in this case. And here are my references.